Hi there. My name is Tercy Engelhardt, and I want to welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. So every week I say something that sounds like, I'm so grateful you're here. And I mean it. Some of you might have been with me on this journey of recovering broken off pieces of ourselves, healing from either addiction or just compulsive behavior, or maybe just advancing yourself in life, learning more about yourself and how to be the best version of you. And wherever you are on that spectrum, I'm so grateful that you're listening in and maybe even sharing with other people who are interested in just a 5 to 10 minute snippet of a little bit of wisdom every week. My podcast releases on Sundays, and it's a collection of lessons I've learned and tools I've gleaned over my 38 year of recovery from 20 years of living an addictive lifestyle, healing from sexual abuse and an eating disorder. And, I had the luxury of hearing other people's stories and being guided by people who had gone before me. And I wanted to be able to offer that for those who are still coming up and perhaps looking for some guidance or clues or tips or insights into themselves, which are sometimes easier to discover through other people's sharing. That it's hard sometimes to see parts of ourselves through a lens that isn't the lens that we've created and lived with to protect ourselves and defend ourselves over the years of your lifetime. And that's the value of listening to other people. So, again, welcome. Thank you, whether you're new or whether you're seasoned. I'm grateful that you're here. On Tuesdays, I offer individual sessions that are an opportunity for me to reflect back to you what I see and what I hear on a more personal level. And, as an elder in my community, what I've learned is as I've aged and gotten older, it's easier for me to see who you really are because my view isn't limited by judgments, opinions, assessments, incessant thoughts, comparison, competitiveness, all those things that kind of plague us in our younger years. It's easy to just see the beauty and the majesty of who you are and to be able to share that with you until you can actually get a glimpse of it for yourself and then live from that image. So, if that's something you're interested in, or you know someone who's interested in it, you can sign up on tercyengelhart.com under Work Together. It's a donation basis. So, I look forward to getting to see you personally and know you a little bit more powerfully and closer and intimately. So, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of you who I see on a weekly basis. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Okay, so last week I talked about our past being in our future. And this week I want to talk about how do we regain trust? So, most of us recognize that broken trust is painful, particularly if it veers into the category of betrayal. Betrayal, I believe, is a version of broken trust with those who are closest to us. So it doesn't feel like betrayal. It feels more like broken trust until it's with someone who you're intimate with. It's in your inner circle. It's where um, you've perhaps done more, given more, shared more. Um, yeah, you're closer to. And then when there's broken trust, it does feel like a deeper level, which we call betrayal. And it's painful and it's difficult and it's hard to recover from. However, if we don't do the work to regain trust, we oftentimes end up repeating it, or we live in a smaller version of what's possible for us, attempting to avoid being betrayed or having that trust broken again, which is a version of our past out there in our future. Avoidance is one of the ways that you can tell that you're not living in a clean slate, a wide open blank canvas in which you could create anything, because anything is now restricted by, but not what led to you or your perception of what led to that betrayal or broken trust. Okay, so trust is a gift and it's freely given. Now, having said that, you might be disagreeing because many of us feel like you have to earn trust. You have to prove to me that you're trustworthy. So I want to share with you that if you're living inside of a context of either someone else has to prove that they're trustworthy, worthy of your trust, or that you, because it can be also with ourselves, or that you somehow have to do something or show up in some way or be some way to prove that you can trust you again if perhaps you've made a painful decision or an error that's cost you greatly in life. And so you don't trust your judgment or your perception or your intuition or whatever it might be. If you're living like you have to prove it, I want you to consider it'll never work. Because the culture or the environment, if you have to prove yourself trustworthy, is a culture of mistrust. And in that culture of mistrust will show up. So take a breath. How we trust is we risk. We're courageous. We take a risk. We trust anyway, regardless of someone's past performance or our past errors or mistakes. We trust because we're committed to being trustworthy people. We're developing the culture of trust within ourselves and with others. And so you trust without expectation of return. Because otherwise it's manipulation. Anytime you're doing something in order to, it's a version of manipulation. It's not the purity of a quality that's divine. So you trust because you're committed to developing yourself as a trusting or trustworthy person. And it's a practice. So sometimes you'll trust and it won't go the way you hoped or thought the trust would go. And you learn a lesson and you look and see, and what was the lesson and what did you learn and what's the value of that in your life? And other times it will turn out beautifully. And you may, in that case, begin to build power or confidence around trusting. But the interesting thing is, no matter how much confidence or experience you have in trusting turning out well, as soon as you're betrayed again or the trust is broken, you go back to that previous experience of betrayal or broken trust, and you're again afraid and scared to trust freely. But remember that trust is a gift freely given, and you trust because you're a trusting and trustworthy person. And it may or may not be reciprocated. But the lack of reciprocation doesn't make you withhold trust. Perhaps it teaches you more about how you trust and how you interact with people and the quality and the depth of the relationships that you're in. So, yeah, well, I was watching a movie the other day, and it was a woman who had, this is a movie, a woman who had been murdered, and she had been teaching her son that it's go deep, not wide. And that applies here. Trust happens when we go deep in relationship as opposed to wide in relationship. And when there's broken trust or betrayal, it shows us or teaches us something about the depth of our relationships. So be a student, be willing to learn, be willing to listen, to see, and to discover. And above all else, practice trusting freely because you're developing yourself as a trusting and a trustworthy person because that is who you are. And that's a divine quality embedded in you. And the more we practice it, the more it's present in our lives. And I'll be here next week